Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, this is another in my series that I call Spreads, Spreads, and More Spreads. It's a series about spreads, and I've got another spread for you. This spread is called, I love the name of it, it's called the Magic 7 Spread, and it came from a book that I'm using for my series, another series, my deep dive series into the Egyptian Tarot by Zain. I just started that, so if you want to check that out, I recommend it. I'm working through an entirely new system of tarot with you, so it's a little bit awkward at first. Okay, it's very awkward at first, but you might enjoy me watching me stumble through that. So one of my references for that series is a book called How to Read Tarot, a very all-encompassing name, but geared toward a very specific deck, specifically the Egyptian Tarot by Zain. So that's one of my reference books, and in that reference book, they've got these amazingly complex spreads. They've got 36 card tarot spreads. They've got I think there was one that was 56 cards, and I'm not going to be doing those spreads for you. I can't imagine how I could even film those. Maybe I could break it down into bits, but anyways, it's too much for my mind to handle at this moment. But there's this wonderful little, for them, 7-card spread that I thought was amazing. And the authors of that book, just in case you're curious, are, I'm just checking here, Doris, Chase, Doane, and King Keys, just to let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera down and I'll walk through the spread with you, but first let me show you the layout of the spread in nice pretty color, and then I'll show you an example of that spread that I did for myself a little while ago. Here they are. Hello friends, we are back. And as I was setting up the camera, turning the camera down, setting up this layout, it struck me that I had the deck that I did my practice run with this spread with in my bag. And I thought, well, why don't I just pull that out, lay it back out the way it was, and walk through it with you on camera so that we get this. So I get to show you why I thought this was a very interesting spread. When I first practiced with it, about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. So, like I said, I was preparing to do a deep dive into the Egyptian Tarot. And in the book one of the books that I'm studying for that deep dive series had a bunch of spreads, and one of those spreads was this Magic 7 spread. Now, this is the black and white image of what I just showed you. So I thought this was very intriguing. Not a huge number of cards, so laying it out and working through it with you would not be too difficult. And so I tried it out. And I used my Morgan Greer in a tin. You can see this tin is really beat up, right? This goes with me everywhere I go. This is in my backpack at all times and accessible at all times, and I love it. But you can see that the paint on the tin has started chipping pretty badly. But that doesn't matter, and it's dinged up, and that's fine. This is one of my travel decks, and I love it. So I did my practice spread for this with this. And again, this is what came up. So what are the positions? Yeah, just so we remember, we lay them out in this order. There's the upward pointing triangle of past, present, future. We could think of this as fire or air maybe. And then there's the downward pointing triangle, 4, 5, 6, of what needs to be managed, the environment, what surrounds the situation or what surrounds the seeker, otherwise known as the querent, in the situation. Number 6 is the challenge. Now, the challenge can be something that we want to aim for, we want to strive for, we want to point ourselves in the direction of achieving, or it can be a challenge in the sense of an obstacle. So there are both possibilities in this spot for me. And then in the book, this is called the outcome. Personally, I don't believe in fixed future. I don't believe in a fixed future. There's no set, determined outcome to our actions. This is a possible outcome, maybe, or it can be advice. This is something that I have added to the Magic 7 spread, that this can be an outcome, or it could be advice. Or it could be a combination of both. Depends on what card lands here in relationship to the question and in relationship to the cards that surround it. So I practiced with this, and the question that I asked was, how can I most successfully do the deep dive that I had been planning for the Egyptian Tarot? Let me just make sure that we're all nicely squared up in the camera here. This is as good as it's gonna get, I think. Okay, so the question again was, how can I successfully accomplish my deep dive into the Egyptian Tarot? That was the question about 2 weeks ago, before I started the deep dive, which I started just 2 days ago. And so I laid out the cards, and so what do we get? For the past was judgment, the call, right? And in a sense, that is true. I was called to use the Egyptian Tarot in the deep dive. And if you, excuse me, if you look at my introduction to the deep dive video, I described that, how I landed on using the Egyptian Tarot. I was kind of called to choose that deck in several ways. One was a friend of mine on the Facebook environment had recommended that I might be interested in looking back at the deck. It had been languishing on my shelf for a long time. So that friend brought that deck back to mind. And then I also used my pendulums to make sure which decks I wanted to use. And so there was a process, but I was called to use that deck. The eternal nature that I am inhabiting, this beautiful body which I am co-creating, that eternal nature, I think, was calling me to use the Egyptian Tarot. And so for the present, at the time that I was laying this spread, at the present, I got Temperance, which makes sense, yeah? I had already kind of decided which deck I would use with the Egyptian Tarot as my crutch, my support deck, but I was still working that out, and so Temperance makes sense, right? I was doing the alchemy of bringing elements together in order to do the deep dive. And I wanted to bring decks together to communicate with each other, to fire and water together to create something gold, something new. That's basically where I was in the present. And so the future, the Three of Wands makes absolute sense, right? The Three of Wands. Now, in Pamela Coleman Smith's art, what do we see? We see this male presenting figure from the back up on a hill looking over a golden ocean, and there are ships on the sea, and we imagine that those are that person's ships sailing out. So this person has determined their course of action and has started moving in that direction, has sent their ships out to get stuff done. And here we've got basically that same idea of really zoomed in on the figure. But we also notice that these wands here are, they're growing leaves. Yeah, the acorns are starting to appear. So we've got that sense of things are beginning to develop. Now, action is being taken, things are beginning to develop. That's the future. Perfect future for the question I was asking. So, I've got the heater on, and when I have the heater on in this office, it dries out the air, and then my voice gets dried out a little bit. Let me take a sip of water as we move into card 4, which is the Queen of Pentacles, which is the what needs to be managed. Excuse me. What needs to be managed for me is my appreciation of my materials, right? The Queen of Pentacles is the one who appreciates their resources, who appreciates the stuff that they have, the opulence that they enjoy, and is able to share. They are independent. They are not dependent on others for their wealth. It's like the 9 of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck on steroids to me. Now, that figure in the 9 of Pentacles who is really there, comfortable, satisfied in her own space with her bird and her grapes and all of that, has now become the queen. And so she's so satisfied that she is now able to care for and have those resources flow out to those around her, because queens are water, right? So those resources can flow from her to those around as she cares for and nurtures those around her as well in her independence. So that's what I want to manifest for myself as I do the deep dive. I want to manifest my appreciation for my satisfaction with the abundance of the resources that I have as I use those resources to nurture and nourish those around me. Perfect thing to want to embody for a deep dive, right? And so the card 5 is the environment. The environment I want to create here is a King of Swords. Yeah? Clarity of vision, clarity of speech. But you'll also notice that the King of Swords here is presenting wheat in his hand. And these acorns, the acorns here, which are the harvest and the bounty of the Queen of Pentacles, those acorns are here as well. They're not ready for harvest yet, but they are there. They're growing. They are vibrant. They are healthy. They're alive. So the king has the resources and also the mental clarity, and that mental clarity brings a bounty that the king is able to lead with and share with those around him, her, them. Because, of course, we're all queens, we are all kings. Makes no difference what kind of body we inhabit. I and you are both a queen and a king and a knight and a page. We have aspects of all of these within us. So, the King of Swords, that's the environment that I think I want to create. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So, the challenge. Now, for this card in this position, this is not something I want to accomplish, I don't think. I think this is actually the kind of obstacle aspect of a challenge. The 5 of Swords, winning, but at what cost? This spread is warning me against the potential of pitting the 2 decks that I am using together and creating a battle situation where one has to win out over the other. Yeah, they're different systems, and there is potential for them to be in conflict and picking a winner, and that's not going to help me or anyone else. But rather, what I want to do is I want to peer through the 2 systems to the underlying structure, and once I get that underlying structure clear for myself, and hopefully clear for those following along with me, then the 2 decks in their different expressions of that underlying structure will be able to communicate better, as in the Temperance card, and avoid the potential of conflict between them. Does that make sense? And so the final outcome or advice is the Sun. And I think that's wonderful. This is a lovely spread, and perhaps it's because of that Sun card that I wanted to bring this spread in to present to you, because it made me so happy. Yeah? And here in this Sun card, instead of the one lone baby on a horse, we've got this kind of more of a Terre de Marseille vision of the Sun card, where there are the two figures facing each other. In the light of the sun, in the bounty of the sunflowers and success and happiness and radiance and clarity and joy and all of that wonderful stuff. So that is my potential outcome. That's the direction I want to head in. That's what I want to bring to the deep dive that I'm doing into the tarot into the Egyptian tarot. Makes sense, right? Now, another element, another layer to reading this spread, which was not in the book, but in these positional spreads where one card means one thing and another card means another thing, there's that layer but in a sense, it's a very surface way of reading a spread. That's one layer, it's the top layer. But there are layers within a good spread. And so, within that layer of this is the present, this is the past, this is the present, this is the future. Within that, there are interactions between cards, right? So, what do we see here? We've got all of the four suits presenting, which are good, and we've got majors, right? We've got swords, we don't have cups. I'm sorry, we don't have cups. So, we don't really have cups, but we do get water represented here in the temperance card. The cups are being poured, so perhaps my emotional state is not so key in this. However, the major cards here are fairly emotionally based cards to me. Yeah, the temperance, the combining of the cups in alchemy. In alchemy, the sun is a very emotional card. It's joy, it's success, it's happiness, right? The judgment card, it's the call from above, which you could see as an air thing, but there's also that emotional rising up from a cold, dead material plane. So, okay, there's no clear cup here, but fairly balanced to me. That's one thing to think of. Like I said, the air is drying out. I'm sorry. Another layer to think of in this spread is, do you notice this? The Queen with her pentacle. Yeah, there's this disc here. Disc, right? I think these three cards can be read in a progression. So, how can that be read in a progression? Well, this is the card of what I want to I want to manage, that I want to manifest, that I want to bring about. So if I do that, if I embody my Queen of Pentacles-ness, I will find more success. And as I find success, that success will lead me to the call, which was a call from the past, but it's a response to that call. Yeah, a movement in the direction of rising up from where I have been. It's my evolution. My next step of evolution will come from this to this to this. And we know it's not here, but the next card is 1920-21, the World card, right? That's the direction I'm heading towards. That culmination of fullness of completion. So if I can start from here, I can move in that direction. Now, these cards can also be read in an X fashion, right? Temperance. If I combine things well, with clarity, I can be successful. If I try to mash the two decks that I want to use together and try and force them into one, I'm not going to be successful. However, if I keep them as separate elements and have them communicate with each other, in a balanced alchemical interaction, I will be able to find my clarity of separate but revelatory. Does that make sense? Sometimes if we try and mash two things together, sometimes we get something beautiful and new. But sometimes what we get is just a mess. Things break apart. And I don't want to do that. I want to have them interact. I want the fluid from each cup to move into the other, to communicate. And from that, we alchemize, we create gold of clarity, and the gold of harvest, and the gold of bounty. Now here, as I move forward, I want to be careful, again, that moving forward isn't moving in the direction of a conflict. I want to be careful of that. I want to move towards the sun and avoid this. And we see here the sun is setting, right? If I move into conflict, that sun is going to disappear. So I want to move here, but not get so far. I want to move in the direction of where I'm going, but be careful and avoid the Five of Swords. Because if I get there, this success is going to set. It's going to disappear behind the horizon, right? So that's why I really thought this spread was interesting, and I really wanted to show it to you, and I wanted to enjoy the sun one more time. So that was then. This is now. I'm going to do a new spread for you right here and now. And I'm not going to use this deck. I'm going to use this deck. Now this is my German version of the Hudes Tarot. Now let me give you a little bit of background story for this. This is a gorgeous deck. I love it. If you don't know, the Hudes Tarot, the English version, is out of print, has been out of print for years, and sells for pricey prices on places like eBay. And I found one at a relatively reasonable price on eBay, and I got it, and I love it, but I wanted to be careful of it. That was the first deck, actually, that I spent what I considered to be a lot of money on. It wasn't hundreds of dollars, but it was expensive. And again, like I said, it was the first deck I spent more than indie deck price for. And so again, I wanted to be careful of it. And I searched around and I found the German version. The German version, it was still being sold on Amazon in Germany at a relatively good price. I mean, it was a good price. It was a mass market price, but I had to pay for shipping to get it from there to here, so it was a little bit more expensive. But still, as a mass market deck, it was a very reasonable backup deck. So what I decided to do is I would use this deck for my daily work, and I would keep that other English version for special, because really it's not that these two decks are basically the same. It's just the titles are different. The titles in this deck are German, and if you're used to looking at the images, those German titles are not a problem. And well, you'll see in just a moment. Now, long story interminable. This deck is now out of print and is selling at prices that are comparable to the English version of the deck. So this deck has suddenly become much more expensive. And so I want to be more careful of it now than I had been. But still, I love this deck. It's a beautiful, gorgeous deck, and I'm going to set the box aside now. And this is what the backs of the deck, of the cards, look like. It's an alchemical deck, yeah? We've got gold, we've got silver here. It's a gorgeous, alchemically created deck. Love the knot on the back. Lovely, lovely deck. So, here we go with the reading. A brand new reading using the Magic 7 spread. And the question I want to bring to the table here and now is this. Now that I have actually started the deep dive into the Egyptian tarot. How can I proceed? Let's keep it simple. How can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those following me? That seems like that's a good question. So let's go with that. Yes. Okay, so friends, here we go. The question is, now that I've begun my deep dive into the tarot, the Egyptian tarot, how can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those following me? Whoa, okay, so suddenly, okay, I want to relax. Relax, here we go. The question again. If you want to skip ahead over the shuffle, feel free. But I'm going to do a legit shuffle and a legit reading here. Now that I've begun my deep dive into the Egyptian tarot, how can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those following me? Following along. Not following me, following along. Now that I have begun my deep dive in the Egyptian tarot, how can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those who follow along? Now that I have begun my deep dive into the Egyptian tarot, how can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those who are following along? Now that I've begun my deep dive into the Egyptian tarot, how can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those who follow along? Now that I've begun my deep dive into the Egyptian tarot, how can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those who follow along? Now that I've begun my deep dive into the Egyptian tarot, how can I proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those who follow along? Okay. Now, as I was... Now, just so you know, as I was shuffling and as I was repeating that question along for my benefit and for the benefit of you, I also had the image of the spread in my mind. Does that make sense? Is that how you shuffle? When you shuffle a question into your deck, are you holding both the question and the spread in your mind as you shuffle? That's what I do. That's what I try to do to the best of my ability. So here we are. First card is the past. Now, the book that I have used as a resource for this spread suggests laying the cards face down and then turning them over. So that's what I'm going to do. This is the past. Let me make sure that this is in view. Yes, it is in view. Bring it up there. Okay, that's the past. This is the present. I'll need to move these cards around a little bit anyways, but this is the present. This is the future. This is what needs to be managed. This is the environment. What surrounds both me and the question. And this is the challenge. And this is the advice or the outcome. Okay, so Just put these there for your enjoyment, because these cards are going to be flipped over. Now, the book suggests flipping the cards from bottom to top, and I do not do that. I do not flip this way. I flip over. And I haven't shuffled reversals into this deck. So if I were to flip this way, each and every one of these cards would be reversed. That is not helpful. So that should all be on camera, nice and even. Okay, so let's read the spread. Let's begin with the past. Now, what was the question again? How can I best proceed? Now that I've begun my deep dive into the Egyptian tarot, how can I best proceed for my benefit and the benefit of those who follow along? This is the past. This is the Knight of Wands. That kind of makes sense, right? I have begun with a passionate bolt forward with enthusiasm. That makes sense. My first two videos have been enthusiastic, if nothing else. Where they have lacked in clarity, perhaps, they have been energetic. The present. Okay, so we got the Five of Wands. The present. So I'm not the Five of Swords, thank goodness. But there's still a little bit of a playful conflict that I am working my way through with the two decks, I think. I think that's what this is pointing to. Yeah, that passion I began with, there's a little bit of a conflict. I think it's a playful conflict. I don't think it's an antagonistic conflict, but something to be aware of. And so the future is Okay, another knight. So I'm moving from passion to clarity, to perhaps better communication. Now this writer could also be a little bit aggressive and antagonistic. Want to be careful of that. I don't want to go off in like a Hotspur is what I think of. You know Hotspur from Shakespeare's Henry the Fourth and Fifth plays? I don't want to go off like Hotspur. I don't also want to go off like, I don't know, Lancelot trying to slay dragons. That's not the direction I want to go in. But I do want to be clear, communicative, and active, which are qualities of the Knight of Swords as well. So, past, present, future. Not bad. Want to be careful of conflict. Still, that's on the table. So, what needs to be managed? Oh, another knight. So, what needs to be managed is my daily practice, right? The Knight of Pentacles. This is fun. This is funny, isn't it? I think this is funny. It's funny in a kind of revelatory, aha kind of way. So the Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, I want to master my daily routine with my materials. Remember, I wanted to master my Queenness of Pentacles. Now here I want to master my routine, of the daily practice of my deep dive, right? What is the environment? The environment is, ooh, that's interesting. So we've got cups have entered the picture. Good. That gives us a much more balanced spread here, right? We've got wands, we've got pentacles, we've got cups now. Six of Cups. Nostalgia, memories of joyful times. Okay, so the environment is a joyful, nostalgic kind of environment. But sixes are also beauty, right? Sixes are the beauty of the emotional experience of where we are. The springtime of our world. The springtime of of the practice. So let's move on to what is the challenge. Is it a thing to do or thing to avoid? Thing to do, I think. Okay, so fresh clarity, new ideas, which is perfect because I have just started to create a chart that is going to help me in reading both the Egyptian Tarot and the Tarot of the Holy Light in a more astrological way. And so this fresh clarity is what I want to be moving towards, if that makes sense. And maybe this environment is something I want to also be careful of getting too soft, of slipping into old ways of approaching my reading. Yeah, slipping into a childish, there's the potential of slipping into a childlike, innocent way of reading the tarot that is wonderful, but the purpose of the deep dive is to move beyond that, into this new idea, this new practice, this new perception, and a new way of speaking about tarot, for me. And so the outcome is, okay, leaving behind. So this isn't the eight of cups, right? This is the 5 of cups. The 5 of cups is where we learn from some of that nostalgia is going to be spilt. That innocent time when I was just looking at the Rider-Waite-Smith system and was very comfortable and it was easy, things flowed very easily with my understanding and my way of reading with the Rider-Waite-Smith. Some of that is getting knocked over, but not all of it's getting knocked over, right? The 5s are breakouts and breakthroughs from the stability of the 4s. Yeah. So in that breaking out of my comfort zone of the 4 of cups, which could also be kind of boring, the 5 is going to show me that yes, some of those cups are going to get spilt, but not all of them. I've got these 2 new cups, and remember the 2 cups from the let me see, it's right over here on the side. The Temperance card, right? Those 2 cups. Those 2 cups are still there. So, yeah, notice that, yes, I'm letting go of some of my past comfort for the benefit of this. For the benefit of having these 2 full cups here beside me, which will then grow again into more cups, which will grow again into like the 9 of cups of satisfaction, the 10 of cups of being able to, those cups being able to feed those around me. So yeah, this series, this deep dive is going to be is going to be unsettling for me. I'm going to want to let go of some of my comfort in order to fully access and take advantage of and be fed by these 2 remaining cups, which I will be able to carry forward with me. Right? So, this is a very, very interesting spread. Now, how can I read this differently? So here we have the Knight of Pentacles, right? Plodding along. And plodding along, we'll notice that stuff is going to get knocked over. Some of the stuff that we thought was stable and we could count on, it's going to get knocked over. And we'll notice that, but as we acknowledge the things that are left, the things that are actually beneficial, the things that are knocked over, they weren't as beneficial as we originally thought they were. These two that are left are the beneficial things that will feed our continued passionate movement forward. Yeah, this Knight of Swords here could bring conflict, but this Knight of Swords is also bringing the new idea. This Knight of Swords that is the future is bringing this new idea, which is wonderful. This conflict, potential, not conflict or, what do we call that? When people are contending for things. What is that word? What is that word for when competition? The competition in this card. Now this card is still bugging me a little bit. Not bugging me like I wish it weren't there. It's bugging me in that this is an interesting card for this position. I haven't quite figured it out yet. Perhaps for this competition to be beneficial, we want to maintain the innocence of the competition that I'm experiencing at the moment, rather than it moving into that Five of Swords where one's got to win and win a bloody battle. So for this not to become this from that other reading, I want to maintain my naivete, my emotional state of I don't know, and I'm learning. My childlike, that's it. So I want to maintain my childlike approach to this, which might include some of this, which definitely is including some letting go of things that had been comfortable. But for my own growth and hopefully for the growth of those who are following along, because this is not only me, this is also for those who are following along, right? So the competition or the challenge between the two decks that I'm using, the two systems that I'm using, could be also knocking over some of the cups for those following along with me. But if we apprehend, if we acknowledge this state with childlike innocence, we will all grow and benefit from it. Does that make sense? I'd love to hear what you think. What do you think? I think this is a very interesting spread. And it looks a little bit like the Chariot spread that I created. My Chariot spread was a little bit different. No, my Chariot spread was different. My Chariot spread had 3 cards on the sides and the card in the center. This has 3 cards on the center and 2 cards on the side. So yes, it's different. A different layout for the 7 cards. This magic 7 spread. What do you think? Is this something that you have used? Let me know in the comments below. Would you read this spread differently? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And friends, if you are still here, hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and others might get something out of it as well. It draws eyes to the channel. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. Like I said, I just started a deep dive series, and so there will be videos every day, I believe, from now until the new moon after the next new moon. From now until the new moon in February. I think I'll be doing daily videos. So hit that alarm bell so you get notifications. And also, friends, really comment below. I'd love to hear from you. If you want a private reading from me, let me know. My email address is below. And you can shoot me an email saying, I want a reading, and we'll get you a reading. If you want this deck, I'm really sorry. It is way out of print. look on eBay is the best I can say. And if you do want this deck and you find one at a good price that you can manage, I highly recommend this deck. This is a gorgeous deck. You can see in German, even though this is German, right? Fünf de Kelch. Fünf de Kelche. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cups, no problem. Ritter de Stabe. Yeah, Stabe, those are the wands. But clearly a knight, right? Clearly a knight. Let me show you a couple of other cards, just in case you're intimidated by German. What do you think that is? Strength, right? Kraft, but strength. What do you think that is? Der Hierophant. Could it be the Hierophant? What do you think that is? 7 of Pentacle. 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This deck in German is not difficult to read. There's no point of stumbling. So, friends, let me know what you think. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.